God is so far from us in the hour of distress. I'm John Renton with a retro review of Nosferatu the Vampyre, or Vampyre. Keep watching the skies. Written and directed by Werner Herzog. Boy, me oh my, down on the wire, the fuck he's on Bayou. Werner Herzog certainly is quite the controversial filmmaker. And I don't mean as far as being a bad person, I just mean that his films are left open to interpretation. Apparently, an interpretation that's on the positive side must be formed when you sustain several major head injuries. The man, however, does have a knack for great cinematography and some lavish shots, and letting his performers basically act like they're in a recently revived soma coma. That being said, Nosferatu the Vampyre, however you want to say it, was based on a novel by Bram Stoker. Wait, a vampire movie based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. Surely you jest with this revelation. So there was English dialogue. What is English dialogue anyway? Oh, stuff like, hey you, get off that, and why not? Done by Tom Shatman. He's a Shatman. Beep up, bop, up. And Margit Grokman, I assume. I don't actually know if I even got within the ballpark. I don't really care. If you are not familiar with what Nosferatu is, okay. Back in 1922, they did a silent film version. That's right, kids. At one point, films didn't even have dialogue. I don't think it was until Wings or I think it was the Jazz Singer, where we had dialogue and everybody was blown away. No, I'm not that old to remember that, despite the fact that I was so old, or I'm so old when I was in school, they didn't even have history. But yes, 1922, Nosferatu, the pointy-eared, nasty teeth vampire who brought the Black Plague to wherever the fuck, Wismar. I kept calling it Whizzing Mar because I'm just that mature. So, yes, we have Claw Kinski. We have the absolutely insanely gorgeous Isabelle Adjani, who is in, yes, Possession. By the way, Possession, a terrific movie. If you have not seen Possession, check it out. I do want to shout that she, next to Sophia Loren and Monica Bellucci, probably the best exports from that particular part of the world. Honestly, so goddamn captivating. Weird to think that before the age of 30, she had a role like this, where she was a standout in the movie, and also Possession. Possession, by the way, that was so goddamn insane that I couldn't help but cop this shirt. Why am I showing this? Because you need to check out Possession, because stuff actually happens in Possession. Look, this movie is a slow burn. A slow burn to the point that I think they forgot to turn the burner on. Maybe Werner actually thought that he was back in the whatever century this was. At least what it was supposed to be. The Black Plague obviously happened centuries and centuries ago. And yes, it looks lavish. It looks nice. It also takes twice as long to get to its point. And this is better than the last voyage of the Demeter. This had the second last voyage of the Demeter. Renfield, by the way, Roland Topper, or Topar, and Bruno Ganz as Jonathan Harker. I do want to point out, by the way, the decisions by all these characters, monumentally goddamn stupid. I know it's supposed to be gothic horror. It's supposed to look great, and it does, and that's just Isabelle. Yes, maybe I will profess my love for the nearly 70-year-old, incredibly so good-looking Isabelle. Shut up. But the credit font was certainly a choice. That was certainly a choice. There were kittens in a couple shots. Adorable Mewy kittens. I, for one, am glad I have the producer and I was able to give him the last 2/3 of his life in a proper thing. As much as I wouldn't mind having adorable kittens, they'd be a lot to raise. Adopt, don't shop, by the way. Werner's filming style is certainly, I don't want to say off-putting, but it's strange, because he will just allow shots to just go on and on and on, and the shots don't stop till the beat of dawn when Dracula falls down and dies. So basically, Renfield, who is the familiar, by the way, of Dracula, his confidant, whatever you want to call him, he basically says, hey, by the way, I heard from Dracula over in Transylvania that he wants to buy a house here. So, Jonathan Harker, you leave your incredibly attractive Lucy Harker. Why would you ever want to be even with, on the opposite side of town as Isabelle? I don't goddamn know. But that being said, he decides he's going to take a 4-week trip to get a contract signed so Dracula can move. But Dracula ends up bringing the Black Plague. So I do want to say Kinski actually is pretty off-putting as Dracula. The picture they used on IMDb made me think that he was actually Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, i.e. the only good one. And Jonathan is not listening to the gypsies. You always want to listen to the gypsies unless it's the gypsies from Thinner. Then you don't want to listen to any of them. I'm just going to keep making jokes about this movie because it's certainly more interesting than half the shit that happens here. Yes, there is a way to do slow burn horror movies. And it has a great film style. And it looks great. There's guerrilla warfare style going on going along the cliffs and peaks and valleys and along the rivers and stuff like that. And there are some lavish, beautiful shots. But he's reading up about Dracula and pure evil. Milking an ox of its blood for some reason made me laugh because I'm just so mature. Meanwhile, Lucy is having nightmares and worried that great evil is coming to her. But she is pure of heart and she will make sure to stop him. She will make sure to stop the evil. Kind of, but also not really. So, perfectly normal for a vampire to just suddenly greet you and then you cut your hand during a dinner and he tries to suck you off. Your hand, that is. Tries to suck you off through your hand. I don't think that's how anatomy works. But then he says, listen, the children of the night are making their music. And, yeah, convenient blood spot. And stalking a beautiful Italian woman and everything. Oh, I see. It's okay when a vampire does it, but when I do it? So, yeah, Jonathan ends up basically being trapped there. He ends up getting instantly bitten because he's an idiot. Honestly, why would you go into that man's castle? Just get the contract signed and walk back if you have to. I know that this was well before anybody had any common sense, but come on. Nosferatu, you'd think would be more interesting. He has lived for centuries. I know he's called Dracula, but I'm also going to call him Nosferatu because why not? He ends up, not being very interesting. Oh, he's lived for so long, the mundane stuff and everything, and all this and whatever. And he will sign the contract because he sees a picture of Lucy on this locket. By the way, a locket that the kittens are playing around. Adorable kittens again, by the way. And yeah, I've noted that suddenly the caskets are being transported, and it looked like the Clockwork Orange crew was getting them. Where's Roddy McDowall when we need him? Wait, I think is Roddy McDowall dead? Nevertheless, good job, Jonathan. You fucked it all up. Yeah, being named Jonathan, actually, I can admit that we do fuck things up quite often. Renfield probably should have been killed. Why they had him just jailed, I have no idea. And, yeah, he ends up even trying at one point to choke out a guard, but then gets put in a straitjacket. But he still manages to escape later. So, yeah, the ship arrives. The crew is dead. Who knew transporting a vampire in a bunch of boxes and everything would go so wrong? I will still take this over Salem's Lot, by the way, because A, you get Isabel in this, and B, it's a lot more interesting than Salem's Lot. But it is paralyzingly dull at times. And those poor rats, those rats are just like, why are we on the set? Squeak, 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 squeak. I think they made the rats look intentionally dirty because I think it was all a bunch of white rats and not black. And then suddenly, Klaus Kinski decides to go into a Klausoleum. Thank you! Jonathan has no memory of anyone, for he is slowly turning. Actually, he's kind of rapidly turning, to be perfectly honest. Dr. Van Helsing, in this movie, this version, is no help at all. He's a complete fucking idiot. Lucy, you want to do something? Like maybe stop Klaus from... Oh, you stopped him by showing him a cross. Renfield escapes. Dracula sends him away to a place called Riga. No, I said Riga, no Hulk. And the town is all fucked. There's, not a lot of people alive. Basically, she goes to try and find Dracula. And instead of just stabbing him repeatedly in the heart with a sharp object of some kind, I mean, yes, you need a stake, evidently, she decides, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically get him to give into his temptation for me, kill myself, but that will kill him. Meanwhile, Jonathan's just and a circle of salt and everything. We are easily distracted by circles of salt and by gorgeous Italian women. It's kind of our weakness. That and pizza. I would rather actually have Isabel than have pizza. I would never have pizza again if I could have a woman like her. Nevertheless, so she gets him to give in a temptation. He dies. Okay, there we go. Jonathan, by the way, is then all, is all vampiric and everything, and I have much to do, and then he takes off. He just takes off for seemingly, better pastures or whatever. Oh, yes, and Van Helsing also kills the beast, but is arrested, except there's no police. There's nobody, really, to guard him, because the Black Plague, and the fact that now, we have this obvious vampiric individual here, but we can't do anything. It's like, I get it, but maybe it's just watching it rather with eyes after, it's been out for 45 years and I've seen so many other horror movies. Again, I will take this over The Last Voyage of the Demeter and some other vampire movies, but Jesus Christ, some of this was a slog. You could honestly skip a good 30 minutes of this movie and not miss shit. There are dialogue optional parts at some points, and I get it. You're supposed to be atmospheric. There's atmospheric, and then there's being lazy. And you could get both with Werner Herzog movies. That being said, Isabelle Adjani, absolutely gorgeous, incredibly gorgeous, fan-fucking-tastic just to admire. Beautiful eyes. Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop professing my love for her. She looks really good and actually is a very good actress. Recently was in a Netflix movie called The Wing Women, Wing Women. I actually forget if there's a the there. I will have to check that out at some point. Nevertheless, this movie gets a recommendation for the history and the atmosphere and stuff like that, but don't expect anything really interesting to go on for a while, and maybe it's very much a product of the time, but nevertheless, Nosferatu the Vampyre is done. That is it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rentlin. I'll see you soon.